Hey there everyone, it's Luke from Team Copperhead, and today we're going to go over the Copperhead versus Bloodsport match. Bloodsport's a really nasty horizontal spinner, so we were not taking them lightly. They can do tremendous damage, so let's go back and talk about the strategy and look at some of the damage. So our strategy against Bloodsport was to hit the left side of their weapon. Bloodsport spins counterclockwise, and we wanted to go weapon on weapon, but to do that effectively, we had to drive into the far left side of their robot. So we watched Bloodsport in the test box. This is a brand new Bloodsport, and they definitely had some teething issues that we could see. What we noticed is they were having some struggle self-righting, so we knew that if we got them upside down, even if they were working correctly, there was a good chance they wouldn't be able to self-right. Another thing we noticed is that they were spinning up incredibly slow, but I think in hindsight, they might have just been doing that to mess with us. So Copperhead is not a very modular robot, but we do have some configuration options. Typically, when we fight horizontals, we'll weld a bar that ties the front forks together. This is for the ability to deflect hits and to make the robot as strong as possible. We didn't do that for this fight because Bloodsport hits so high that we didn't think that, the bar would offer the right amount of rigidity in the right places, and we were also worried about losing the ground game. This season of Bloodsport, they spent a lot of time working on their wedgelets, and watching them in the test box, those things were peeling up the paint, so we knew that they had a really strong ground game this season. So we thought it was actually safer to just run our standard configuration option, just so we didn't lose the ground game. So as soon as the match started, we were pretty much caught off guard with how fast Bloodsport was spinning up. In the test box, they were spinning real slow. I think they knew we were watching, so they might have been messing with us a little bit. But in the beginning of the match, they got up to speed real fast. And Bloodsport has so much power in the spin up, they turn sideways as they're accelerating, so it's really hard to chase them down. Justin's an incredible driver. He tends to go forward, backwards, forward. It's such a hard robot to chase down. So I was really just trying my best to line up a hit, keep the drum pointed at him. We didn't want him hitting the side of the robot where we're fairly vulnerable. But then that one massive hit happened, and just both robots went flying in opposite directions. It was pure chaos. As soon as the hit happened, I was just laser focused on Copperhead. I had seen that, one of our drive sides was not working. It turns out that one of the chains broke right off the robot. Our weapon wasn't spinning up the way it should have been spinning up. We eventually did get it spinning, but I was just focused on Copperhead. I had no idea what even happened to Bloodsport, so I was just trying my best to not get counted out. In previous seasons, if you were crab walking, you would have gotten counted out. This season, they changed the rules, so as long as you're mobile, you won't get counted out, but I didn't want to take any chances. I was just trying my best to show that the robot was still functioning, and then eventually I found out that, the match was over, so I was super grateful that the fight was over, and we got the victory. So let's talk about that huge hit. So what we suspect happened was Bloodsport actually made contact with Copperhead's drum first, and that's the back of the drum. If you look at this photo here, you'll see that there's a huge mark on the back of our drum. So what we suspect happened is Bloodsport hit the back of our drum, and that might have deflected them up a little bit, which allowed us to come in on the next rotation for the uppercut. So we definitely hit them straight up on the bottom of their blade, which is what we were going for. But what we didn't want to happen was to have them hit our side rails, our frame rails. And sure enough, that's what happened. So if you look at this next photo here, you'll see that, you can see where they hit us, and it's a lot higher than where their blade typically hits. So that means we likely got underneath them, we popped them up in the air, and as they were flying away from us, they made contact with our frame rails. And that ended up doing a ton of damage. It doesn't seem that obvious if you watch the footage back, but if you look at these photos here, you can see that, our frame, that frame rail is completely bent. You can see that, our weapon, where the weapon shaft goes in, ovaled out. It's supposed to be circular. Now it's an oval. It's not good. The drive chain broke because the frame rail flexed so much. So that's why the chain broke. And it was just a mega hit, obviously Bloodsport was on fire, flipped upside down. It was looking pretty bad for Bloodsport, but it was also a pretty nasty hit on Copperhead as well. So this was actually quite devastating for us. Going into this season, we only had 2 copies of the frame, and we already had 1 frame rail completely destroyed from our first match. So this meant that we no longer had 2 copies of Copperhead to work with going through the rest of the season, and that was our first fight. So we knew that from that first fight, it was going to be a really long tournament, tons of repairs we'd have to make, and we're just, from the first fight, we're already running out of parts. So, you know, in hindsight, you know, I had wished I drove maybe a little bit better so that they didn't clip our frame on the way up. But, you know, Bloodsport's so fast, they're so maneuverable. We tried the best that we could, but in the end, you know, both robots took substantial damage, and that's just the way it goes. All right, so so our next fight is going to be against Triton. It's the horizontal deep six that everyone's super excited to see. Another really scary horizontal. So hopefully we can do something similar to what we did with Bloodsport. One hit knockout, that's what we're going for.